Welcome to Truman's Town Hall with your host, Matt Truman.
Hello. This is Matt Truman. Thank you for downloading this episode. Thank you for sharing with a friend. Today, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of clips to play, and we are going to do that, starting with the Justice Department's press conference about the 4 indictments out of the City of Dayton.
I'm joined here at the podium by the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI Cincinnati Division, Joe Dieters, as well as Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. We're here this afternoon to announce the first wave of charges arising out of a long-term investigation into suspected public corruption here in Dayton, Ohio. What we're going to do in this conference this afternoon is I'm going to go through and explain the charges, and then I'm going to yield the podium to Assistant Special Agent in Charge Dieters and Attorney General Yost, who will have some comments as well. After they speak, I'm going to return and answer any questions that you have. But I should say, before we get started on explaining these charges, the disclaimer that I always give, which is that these are indictments, and indictments are just allegations. They're just putting the defendants on notice with what they're charged with. These defendants are presumed innocent unless and until the United States proves them guilty with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt in court. So please keep that in mind as I describe the allegations of the indictment. With that said, there are 4 individuals charged here today in 4 indictments. First up is Joey Williams, who is charged with 1 count of bribery. According to the allegation of the indictment, in calendar year 2015, Mr. Williams solicited and accepted bribes totaling over $50,000 in cash and benefits from a person whose business was seeking contracts with the City of Dayton. In exchange, according to the indictment, Mr. Williams exerted influence to cause Dayton and its development arm to award contracts totaling over $150,000 to the company of that individual. Next charged is Roshan Winburn, who, according to the indictment in his case, is the director of the Minority Business Assistance Center here in Dayton. He is charged in 3 counts of honest services wire fraud, 2 counts of bribery, and 1 count of lying to the FBI. According to the allegations in that indictment, between 2014 and 2015, Winburn accepted cash payments totaling approximately $20,000, and in exchange, he falsely certified entities to participate in disadvantaged business programs, and also provided confidential, non-public information to those companies or individuals that provided him with bribes regarding future opportunities for bids on contracts that the City of Dayton would award. So, in other words, trying to give them a leg up on the bidding for possible contracts. The third person charged in a separate indictment is Clayton Lucky, a businessman here in Dayton and former state official. And according to the indictment in that case, from 2016 to 2017, Lucky proposed to another company and then did falsely act as a front for that other company to satisfy disadvantaged business enterprise certification requirements. He's charged with 1 count of mail fraud, 1 count of wire fraud. And then the last person charged is Brian Higgins in a separate indictment, who is a businessman here, charged with 1 count of mail fraud and 1 count of wire fraud. And that relates to an insurance fraud, which is not itself strictly related to public corruption, but it arose out of the same investigation, which is why that indictment is being handed down and unsealed at the same time today. Let me speak for just a moment on why it's so important to investigate and prosecute public corruption. And I want to bring it down to an everyday level. If you go to the BMV and you satisfy the objective criteria for getting a driver's license, the clerk is required to give that license to you. He's not doing you a favor by giving you the license. And that's true in your everyday experience going to get a driver's license. It's just as true when we're talking about getting contracts from public entities. When you have public corruption, In this sense, it undermines law. It's the opposite of the law. And that is why I and everyone who stands here today is committed to devoting whatever resources are necessary to investigate and prosecute public corruption to the fullest extent of the law. This investigation has been going on for quite some time. It has been covert till now. Now, as you can see, the investigation is overt. We ask for the public's assistance in this ongoing investigation, and Assistant Special Agent in Charge Dieters will be able to explain the way that the public can assist law enforcement in this investigation. So I'm now going to yield the podium to Assistant Special Agent in Charge Dieters. He will speak, and then Attorney General Yost will speak before I will retake the podium and answer any questions that you might have.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Glassman. Again, my name is Joseph Dieters. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in Charge for the FBI Cincinnati Division. I'd like to start by thanking all the agencies involved, to include the United States Attorney's Office, the Ohio Attorney General's Office, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and the State Auditor's Office, who have worked with the FBI's Southern Ohio Public Corruption Task Force to investigate and arrest the 4 individuals who have been indicted. This has been a lengthy investigation using a variety of sophisticated investigative methods to uncover what appears to be a culture of corruption in Dayton area politics. The 4 individuals who've been indicted are alleged to be the perpetrators of 3 separate corruption schemes. This investigation into corruption in the Dayton area remains ongoing and is likely to produce more arrests in the future. Public corruption is the top criminal priority for the FBI because government corruption impacts all taxpayers, erodes public confidence, and undermines the strength of our democracy. Today's arrest should serve as a wake-up call. This type of behavior will not be tolerated. It will be investigated and prosecuted. Those involved in bribery and fraud will face jail time. The people of Dayton deserve better. That is why the special agents and task force officers from the Southern Ohio Public Corruption Task Force have worked long and hard to bring us to this day. The FBI works closely with our partners to root out corruption. While this can be a difficult task, it is crucial to protecting the public and the trust that has been built in our government institutions. The American people should not be tolerant of public corruption, but instead demand those in public office and those doing business with public agencies follow the law. When individuals become aware of potential corruption, we encourage them to come forward and report criminal abuses to the FBI. This information is critical to our work. Many of our investigations start with a tip from someone who encounters corruption in the community. We ask for anyone with information related to these individuals' alleged practices or other related corruption to contact the FBI Public Corruption Tip Line. And I'd like to give you a number. The phone number is 937-291-5222. Again, 937-291-5222. Public corruption can be difficult to detect without the assistance of concerned citizens. We urge anyone with additional information to contact us so this work to restore accountability in government continues. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Dave Yost. I'm the Ohio Attorney General. This is actually a pretty big moment for me because I used to be the Ohio Auditor of State, which is also our office then was part of the Southern Ohio Public Corruption Task Force. And so I've seen this investigation from 2 vantage points, and it's good to see these first indictments. The main point that I want to add is this is not a victimless crime. I know that there's some cynics out there that say if it bleeds, it leads. Well, what's bleeding here is our trust in government. The victims of this crime are each and every citizen who pays their taxes, who follows the law, and trusts our government officers to make honest decisions by the book, by the numbers, And the evidence, I'm convinced, will show in this case that that's not what happened in these cases. This is not the end of the road. And I want to assure everyone and let the message go out that the state government, that the local jurisdictions, that the federal government are cooperating on these matters. There isn't competition. There is hand-in-glove cooperation. And we are not going to give up. We're not going to give in. Thank you, Mr. U.S. Attorney.
Thanks. Yeah, as the Attorney General said, this has been a cooperative and continues to be a cooperative investigation by the FBI's Southern Ohio Public Corruption Task Force, which includes the FBI, the Attorney General's Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and the Ohio Auditor's Office, all working together. I would like to commend all of them for their efforts in this investigation, as well as commend Assistant U.S. Attorneys Brent Tabacci, Dominic Gervais, and Sami Harden, who are prosecuting the case. And with that, I'll take any questions. Yes.
David Israeli, Israeli.com. I find it interesting that this first round of indictments is all African-American males. This culture of corruption in Dayton's been going on for a long time. We had Wright State where $130 million disappeared. Nobody was let off in cuffs. We have a school board member who committed voter fraud, broke laws. I reached out to offices. He received money from the Oscar Johnny Laundromat. Nothing happened.
What is the question?
Are you only prosecuting black African-American males? Because
no.
This is the first indictment. You're putting people in handcuffs over $150,000 when we had $130 million disappear at Wright State, and no investigation has come close to this.
We would ask you to take your any complaints about any allegations of criminal wrongdoing that have not been investigated to the FBI. Next question.
Okay, what we're going to do right here, if you want to watch the entire questions being asked by the other media outlets there, you can go to Truman's Town Hall podcast. There's a video up there. Okay, so there's one thing we should probably talk about after this press conference. One of the persons who was indicted was a former Huber Heights City Council member. They were elected in December of 2008, and their term ended in December of 2009. They were appointed. I reached out to a few people, and I found out who made the motion to appoint them and who made the second. I think that is important. So, from the information that was given to me, the motion was made by Vice Mayor Seth Morgan, and the second was from Miss Jan Vargo at the time, the at-large council member. And this was back in 2008. One of the other folks who was indicted does have a connection to Huber Heights. I do know that. Not to the government, to my knowledge. I don't know. So there have been folks talking about a connection to Huber Heights at this time, outside of Mr. Morgan appointing, well, the entire city council appoints, but Mr. Morgan made the motion to appoint Mr. Winburn. Outside of that, I do not know or have any reason to believe that there is a connection in this case to the city of Huber Heights. One thing that we should talk about that was said, they talked about the Dayton area and that this was a first wave in indictment, so more to come. This is a big story. Government corruption, and when the FBI comes down on top of that, it's a big story. These four individuals are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, beyond a reasonable doubt. So we have to also make that clear, like the folks did at the beginning of the press conference. The next clip I want to play is the city manager of Dayton giving her statement.